I want every American to be prepared for the hard days that lie ahead. We're going to go through a very tough 2 weeks. And then hopefully, as the experts are predicting, as I think a lot of us are predicting after having studied it so hard, you're going to start seeing some real light at the end of the tunnel.
Let's bring in Kellyanne Conway. She is the counselor to the president. Good morning to you, Kellyanne.
Good morning.
Good morning. So that was a sombering message, and then the extension, the pause, is now extended to the end of the month. What does the next 4 weeks look like? He said these next 2 weeks are going to be pretty bad, pretty painful for all of us. But what happens at the end of the month?
We'll have to see. And the reason that the 30 days was expanded on top of the original 15 is because these mitigation tactics work. And it's so great for the American people to know that they are part of the solution. If you stay 6 feet apart from someone, if you're doing that social distancing regularly, if you're staying inside as you've been asked to do by the federal government and certainly by your governors and local leaders, then you are helping to slow the spread. We've seen the positive results of that. And as I sit in the task force meetings every day, as I talk to our scientists and other health professionals, there's really no substitute for that. And I think often Americans are told, this is the problem, this is the challenge, do this, do that. But here we're part of the solution. So the old saying, prevention is an ounce of cure, that's really true of mitigation here. In addition, as the president goes out there and talks about every day, gives the progress report of the regulations, the red tape that have been reduced, or the emergency approvals the FDA has done on a rapid test. You can get the results in minutes on the convalescent plasma for some seriously ill patients, and some other approvals, sterilization of masks, for example. All these emergency approvals, all of the lifting of the regulations and red tape off of our hospitals and healthcare workers. Sometimes this takes years. It's taken a matter of weeks. So the billions of dollars that have been invested, the millions of supplies that have been deployed, the thousands of military doctors and National Guard, the dozens of companies that have stepped up, some of who've been highlighted, some who don't want any credit, don't need it, just want to help. It's really been an incredible effort on behalf of America. But the President of the United States and our Commander-in-Chief standing up and saying the next couple of weeks are going to be brutal tells us all how important it is that we pay attention and we comply with some really simple asks.
Might not surprise you, but the former Vice President Joe Biden, very critical of the president's handling of this. And he brought up an idea. He said the president should call up President Obama for help. Will he?
Well, the president was asked that question. I think it's really disappointing to have President Obama's number 2, who apparently doesn't talk much to him, out there criticizing instead of saying, hey, here's what we did that we thought was effective. Why doesn't Vice President Biden call the White House today and offer some support? He's in his bunker in Wilmington, and I have to tell you, we're not talking about politics here at the White House at all. We're talking about ventilators and vaccines, not Biden and Bernie. There's really no time for that. But it's very disappointing when you see the criticism. I think the critics and the naysayers seem so much more small and so much more shrill and unhelpful and petty than they ever have. Speaking of Democratic leaders, though, I have to tell you, sitting on these calls with the president, the vice president, and the governors, I have to tell you that the ones that leak the audio tape and try to get the information and go on all the TV shows, hooray, instead of being on the ground with FEMA and with the patients in hospitals and healthcare workers and first responders, I want to point out to you something that has not been revealed. There were 4 consecutive female Democratic leaders, the mayor of D.C., the governor of New Mexico, followed by the governor of Maine, and then the governor of Guam. 4 Democratic female leaders in a row on that call 2 short days ago, thanking the president, the vice president, the task force for providing information, supplies, services, and then making specific asks. But there are no politics for them on that phone call. They're saying, thank you so much for the federal government's response. Here's what my state, my territory, the District of Columbia needs next. Thanking for the 29 emergency disaster declarations that have been approved. Thanking for the Title 32 approvals. Thanking the fact that we're converting hotels to hospitals, that these regulations that would have prevented clinics and surgical centers and dormitories from being stand-up healthcare providing facilities they're able to do that now. So it's regulation after regulation, move after move, and I think the critics seem small. I guess I would ask Vice President Biden why he can't call and lend a hand, and isn't it a time? Doesn't he think he would actually do better by calling here and trying to help? But really, what would he say? What would he have to say? Our president's made very clear that he feels that we inherited a bad and broken system, and that's true. I mean, the testing ecosystem and the surge of supplies that we've been able to do in short time is impressive, but it needs to continue because people still need supplies. Right. Testing 1.1 or 1.2 million by today people, particularly our healthcare workers, our first responders, but making sure that people who need a test, who have the symptoms, who health care professionals have said you should get a test, are getting that test. And Admiral Jawar's did a fantastic job in short time coordinating that.
Kellyanne, today's a tough day. It's April 1st. Forget about April Fool's Day. It's the day that rent is due for a lot of people. And there are a lot of small businesses across the country that are trying to figure out, what do we do? They're still waiting for their checks. You know, who am I going to have to lay off? Who am I going to be able to keep? I know you're in those task force meetings, and I know this is a big concern for the task force and the country as well. For the small business people who are looking in on this Wednesday morning, what's your message to them?
My message to them is please take advantage of the over $370 million, $1 billion that is in the latest package for them, and they need to get in touch with the Small Business Administration. The Department of Treasury is also managing that. Folks, don't feel like you're getting a handout from the government. Don't be proud. This is for you. This is because you are in economic dire straits temporarily through no fault of your own. And the paycheck protection piece of this is meant to sustain them so they can keep the payroll, they can keep people working. I also would say how great it is that the nonprofits are included in that now, because our nonprofits provide such important services to our communities, including daycare and food banks, for example, so they will be able to continue. But folks, ask the questions, call in, get on the website. We're trying to manage that, implement that. And Secretary Mnuchin has said that the paychecks will be directly deposited or sent through the mail to you within a matter of weeks. We also ask the landlords out there and the banks out there to show compassion and coordination and collaboration, and make sure that there is forbearance here and forgiveness for folks who are temporarily in economic dire straits. Look, there's been 3 packages coming from the Hill to the President's desk in about the last 2 or 3 weeks that he has signed into law. Those are meant to provide direct relief to individuals and industries that are in specific distress. We're trying to give hope, but also money where there is despair. And there will be, the president says, light at the end of the tunnel. There will be the great American comeback. It's not tomorrow, it's not next week, but it is coming, and Americans will be part of that. And until then, thank you for the social distancing. Thank you for making simple sacrifices for yourself and within your homes so that we can mitigate the spread of this virus.
Okay, Kellyanne, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stay healthy.
Same to you and yours. Thank you.
Thank you.